I don't know how Turians speak, but I'm guessing they also have a voice box like humans. But that's gone, so I'm assuming Sovereign is now emulating Saren's voice? This also shows the relationship between Sovereign and Saren. That is to say, if Sovereign could engineer Saren to be whatever it wanted, it still kept Saren's voice, or at least is making the effort to emulate it. Now, a lot of people didn't like this transformation, and I'm not a fan of enemies' second winds, or zombies in general, but this transformation makes sense. How he can shoot multiple rockets is another issue. We're told Saren has been upgraded, and here's the extensive proof. We've killed the organic side of Saren, even though he potentially tried to redeem himself through suicide. All that's left is the physical corruption caused by Sovereign that we now must destroy. The real enemy is Sovereign, and that's what we're attacking through this Saren skeleton avatar. Now, if you don't like the whole idea of Saren turning into a frog and jumping about trying to kill you, well, that's a preference, and you're just not paying attention to the narrative, or you simply suck at fighting Geth Hoppers. While you chip away at Saren's defenses, the battle outside is still going on, with no victory in sight. As Saren is defeated a second time, so too, it seems, is Sovereign. That is to say, the Sovereign ship just goes limp. We don't know how or why this works, but it's pretty obvious Sovereign the ship went down as a result of Sovereign Saren being defeated again, and not because of the Arcturus fleet holding back to focus completely on Sovereign. There simply wasn't any exposition on it, nor did our choice to focus on Sovereign provide any real effects. To put it simply, we defeated Sovereign's mind through Saren's avatar, which in turn defeated the rest of its remaining bodies, which is the ship, which is now just a mindless shell. This is quite a nice dichotomy showing the internal struggles Saren went through, the desperation of the real enemy Sovereign, and it making its final attempt to succeed. It may be a computer god that can occupy other creatures, but it's pretty clear to see the idea of desperation and how possession is just as deadly to a god no matter what body it takes over. So the Alliance shoots holes in the lifeless Sovereign ship, it blows up in pieces, and one of those pieces hit the Presidium Tower. But Shepard's okay, which unfortunately would have been a really good setup for the sequel. So the ending is based on whether one killed the Council or not, and the tone is based on one's Paragon or Renegade choices. This is fine, but it's the reaction from the Council I find most odd. There's also the fact that if you choose to kill the Council, though they wouldn't be present, wouldn't the rest of the populace simply elect new representatives? Why would Udina assume the entire spacefaring community would accept humans as their leaders? Does their entire style of government change because of one battle and that their elected officials died? Anyway, whoever's here finally believes in the Reaper threat, but the Council sees humanity as a whole through the actions of Shepard, which doesn't make sense. If you are mostly Renegade, they give the speech that one's ruthlessness is a strength, and they'll be needing that in the coming days. If you're mostly Paragon, humanity will be seen as a defender and protector of the galaxy, which is more generic and makes sense, and no longer shoehorning humans into some obscure species stereotype. Now, Shepard's given the option of who to appoint to be humans' representative on the Council, which goes against the concept of what I thought was a galactic democracy, or at least a human democracy. Why would the leaders of the Council race decide the human representative? Why wouldn't, I don't know, the elect of humanity? Of course, Shepard has the most weight here, and all we get are Udina, Anderson, and thankfully the "it's not up to me" choice. This is something best left to the informed electorate. That is to say, it's more important that Shepard gets the message out about the Reapers to everyone, like humans, and then let them decide who they want as their rep. So, Shepard goes off to figure out how to stop the Reapers. Whomever you pick makes a speech about it, and we get a closing shot of our Shepard amidst an unknown spacefaring object and planet if you're Paragon, and our Renegade character checking out their assault rifle amidst a blue planet covered in red dust, because it means they're evil or something. For both, I have no idea what they're trying to symbolize. The Normandy then flies over Dune because Mass Effect has sandworms, and that's all she wrote. So, in conclusion, Mass Effect's plot is a typical quest-style chase story in a sci-fi universe as a galactic destruction plot gets discovered and dealt with. The flaws are many, but they never break the suspension of disbelief. The general solution to such problems is always more editing, but if I were to focus on 3 general areas to fix, it'd be these. While some side quests have timers, and some main plot events should have, a lot of the bigger flaws in the narrative stem from bad exposition on time and how it relates to other events. The best examples were Garrus's investigation, Tali's situation, and the events of Virmire and Ilos. At first, these appeared to be problems or puzzles to solve, but without the means to do so, or That rushing didn't help any, it only meant a lack of clarity. Though one might argue some of these scenes lacked proper pacing to deal with the sense of time, all that was needed was a quick few changes of dialogue of when these events should have happened. Shepard is foremost a brick. They're also the active protagonist of the story, which doesn't help their persona. Though there's a few tidbits focusing on Shepard's backstory and a few dialogue errors, illusion of choices, and thus repetitions, the entire Prothean vision in Cypher doesn't really gel well with being a protagonist. Having a living mental Prothean should have been a huge deal to the scientific community, and considering the plot, politics. This should have meant that the plot should revolve and be revealed by them, and thus they should have choices to cause it to move based on this huge revelation. For example, the developer wanted us to make a binary choice between two Marines' lives at Vermeer, but the execution was poor. The same problem exists with the Arachnite Queen. In order for Shepard to be an active protagonist in a game of choice, they need those choices to impact the plot, and not just something in a sequel. This is perhaps the biggest fix I can think of. What's interesting about the reports to the Council is you don't even have to talk to the Council, or you can even blow them off during. Since their opinion hinges on your actions and with so many variables, why wasn't there an option to send a report with all kinds of evidence, which we know we have? Shepard never really submits any and even admits to it, which hurts my brain. Even side missions have Turian insignias, Solarian ID tags, Asari writings, and Prothean data disks. When the Citadel is revealed to us, it feels like a massive community filled with political intrigue, like Babylon 5, but despite being a Spectre, we can't influence that world. Wouldn't the individual counselors want these little trinkets, winning them favors, maybe even toward the scientific community about the Protheans? What if we could not only submit proper reports, but supplementary ones to individual counselors? So when we get to the finale, they each have various opinions and attitudes about Shepard, and our request to simply go to Ilos can be a vote amongst the three, and if you fail, well, there's always Anderson. This doesn't impact the plot so much as give a political voice to Shepard, and also doesn't make Shepard look like an idiot who can't even use attachments and emails. And of course, who wouldn't want to bond with the Asari counselor for political and social reasons?